the giant cave bear. All right, welcome back to Alpha Animals, the only podcast where we talk about extinct megafauna like they're your problematic ex. I'm your host, and today we're diving into the Ice Age dating pool to meet a creature so extra, so unnecessarily large that evolution looked at it and said, you know what, too much. We're talking about the giant cave bear, or as I like to call it, that thing that made regular bears look like emotional support animals. Picture this. You're a Neanderthal, you've just invented fire or whatever, you're feeling pretty good about yourself. You wander into a cave looking for shelter, and you come face to face with a bear that's 11 feet tall and weighs 1,500 pounds. That's right, 1,500 pounds. For reference, that's roughly 3 Dwayne "The Rock" Johnsons stacked in a bear costume. Except this bear doesn't have a skincare line and probably smells like death and fermented berries. Ursus speleus, that's the scientific name, which literally means bear of the caves. Very creative, ancient scientists. That's like naming your Wi-Fi internet connection. But honestly, they nailed it because these bears were obsessed with caves, like dangerously obsessed. We're talking Twilight fan at Comic-Con levels of obsession. Now here's where it gets weird. You'd think a bear this size would be out there absolutely destroying everything in its path, right? Alpha predator energy. Wrong. These bears were basically the gentle giants of the Ice Age. They were mostly herbivorous. Yeah, you heard that right. 1,500 pounds of pure, I just want to eat some grass and vibe in my cave. They had the jaw strength to crush your skull like a grape, but they chose violence approximately never. And the caves? Oh, the caves. Cave bears didn't just use caves, they lived in them year-round. They were the original basement dwellers. Hibernate in winter? Sure, but also just hang out in there during summer? Absolutely. These bears saw a cave and said, this is my entire personality now. Archaeologists have found caves, and I'm not making this up, with the bones of thousands of cave bears. One cave in Austria had over 50,000 individual bears. 50,000. That's not a cave, that's a bear apartment complex. That's Bear York City. The HOA meetings must have been insane. Here's where you're probably thinking, okay, but why did they go extinct if they were so chill? Great question. Glad you asked, imaginary audience member whose voice sounds suspiciously like my own internal monologue. The thing is, cave bears had a strategy that was basically put all your eggs in one basket, and that basket is caves. They were so specialized, so committed to the cave life, that when the climate changed during the last ice age, they couldn't adapt. It's like if you built your entire career around being a blockbuster video manager. Very comfortable, very stable, until suddenly it's not. Around 24,000 years ago, caves started getting colder, scarcer, and less hospitable. The vegetation they ate started disappearing, and cave bears, bless their massive hearts, had zero backup plan. They were like, surely the caves will provide, right up until they didn't. Now, let's address the elephant in the room, or the human in the cave, I guess. Did humans hunt cave bears to extinction? This is where it gets spicy, because the answer is kinda, but also not really, but also maybe yes. Here's the tea. Humans and cave bears overlapped for thousands of years. We have evidence that humans definitely killed cave bears. We've found bear bones with cut marks, bear teeth turned into jewelry, bear skulls arranged in weird ritual patterns. Very metal, very unsettling. But here's the thing that the humans killed everything narrative misses. Cave bears were already in trouble. Climate change was doing the heavy lifting. Humans were more like the annoying final boss in a video game you're playing on low health. Could you have won without them? Maybe. Did they make it significantly harder? Absolutely. Also, and this is important, humans wanted those caves, the same caves the bears were hoarding like Ice Age landlords. So it became this whole situation. Imagine fighting a 1,500-pound bear for a studio apartment. That's basically what the Ice Age was like. Real estate was rough, folks. Okay, so there's this pervasive myth that cave bears were these terrifying apex predators, and Hollywood has done us dirty on this one. Every time you see a prehistoric bear in a movie, they make it seem like it's out there hunting mammoths and eating Neanderthals for breakfast. False. Wrong. Fake news. Cave bears were about as threatening as a golden retriever with gigantism. Can they hurt you? Obviously, they're the size of a compact car, but would they? Probably not unless you really annoyed them. Think of them less like grizzly bears and more like really big, really hairy vegans who just wanted to be left alone in their caves to contemplate existence. You know what's wild? Cave bears survived for over 100,000 years. 100,000 years of successfully being absolutely massive and living in caves. Modern humans, Homo sapiens, that's us, we've been around for like 300,000 years total, and we've been civilized maybe 10,000 of those years, and we're already speed-running our own extinction with plastic straws and cryptocurrency. The cave bears' downfall was that they were too specialized, too committed to one lifestyle. But honestly, at least they had a lifestyle. At least they committed to something. Meanwhile, we're out here changing careers every 5 years and having existential crises about whether we should learn Python or just become a yoga instructor. Here's the part where I get sincere for exactly 30 seconds before going back to jokes, so pay attention. The cave bear's downfall teaches us something critical about survival. Flexibility matters. Adaptation matters. You can be the biggest, strongest, most successful species in your ecosystem, but if you can't roll with the changes, you're done. Also, hoarding resources, in this case caves, and refusing to share them, bad strategy. Really bad strategy. Any parallels to modern society are purely coincidental and definitely not something I'm suggesting you think about. Okay, sincerity over. Back to chaos. Cave bear cubs were born tiny, like comically tiny compared to the adults. Imagine a 1,500-pound bear giving birth to something the size of a guinea pig. Evolution is wild. Their teeth were so adapted for plants that they were almost useless for meat. They had the dental plan of a cow in the body of a giant bear. Some caves have cave bear scratches on the walls going up like 10 feet high. These bears were literally redecorating their caves, interior design kings. We've found cave bear bones with healed injuries, which means these bears were surviving broken bones and living to tell the tale. Medieval medicine could never. Look, I know what you're thinking. Why are we spending 15 minutes talking about a dead bear? And you're right, it is kind of absurd. But here's the thing. Every extinction story is a mirror. We look at cave bears and see cautionary tales about specialization, about climate change, about competition for resources, about what happens when you can't adapt. But also, sometimes it's just cool to think about a bear the size of a car that chose peace and vegetables. In a world where everything is chaos and nothing makes sense, where we're all just trying to find our own metaphorical cave to hide in, there's something weirdly comforting knowing that 30,000 years ago, a creature existed that was just trying to do the same thing. Except, they actually found caves. We just have studio apartments with bad Wi-Fi. So, there you have it, the giant cave bear. Too big, too specialized, too committed to the cave life, and ultimately too inflexible to survive the changing world. Rip to the real ones. You would have loved cottagecore. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, tell your friends, sacrifice a berry to the cave bear gods, whatever feels right. Next week on Alpha Animals, we're talking about the megalania, a lizard so large and so terrifying that Australia said, yeah, that tracks. Until then, stay curious, stay weird, and maybe don't put all your eggs in one cave. Peace.